Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Yevamos, Daf Samach Gimel. We are holding on Samach Beis Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Tanu Rabban. We learned in a brisa. In today's Daf we will find lots of Sheva Brachas Torah and good advice for the Chassan and Kala. One who expresses Ava to his wife, loves her like he loves himself. Now, of course, this is a basic mitzvah pertaining to everybody, not just between husband and wife. Explain to Mefarshim. Sure, it's a mitzvah say for all Jews to love each other, but here it's an obligation pertaining to that marital commitment between husband and wife. Here it's a chiyav bein ish li ishtay to express this ava on an ongoing basis. When it comes to be mechabed his wife, he does so on a level which is even greater than the cover that he gives to himself. Mefarshim explained was speaking about allowing her to purchase begadim, tachshitim, as the Gemara elsewhere refers to one's clothing as mechabduse. One's wardrobe accords him honor, earns him respect. And as Rashi points out, why is it that he must provide for his wife's clothing needs more than his own? Says Rashi, because zilusa de itisa kasha medegaver. A woman is more sensitive with respect to her outward appearance and dress, and therefore one should be mechabed her even more than he's mechabed himself in this regard. And a fellow who leads his children down the right path, he learns with them mesilas yesharim. The disciple used to advise parents to learn musar on a regular basis with their children. So one is madrich bonav b'noisav on the right path, v'masiyon samach lepirkan, and he marries them off as they're about to become adults. It's a shayla de mefarshim, what age we're speaking, if it's really young or a bit older. In any case, don't wait too late. Don't wait too long. Marry them off right away. A fellow who does these, olav akasav omer, on him the pasuk says he'll have a successful life, successful family. You'll have peace in your family. Furthermore, if one expresses ava to his neighbors, he's warm to his relatives. He marries his niece, his sister's daughter. Rashi says because he's close to his sister, and therefore it's going to be conducive to a good relationship with his wife. And one who's generous, he lends money to the poor man when he is in need. Tosfos points out, based on the Gemara and Chagiga, don't wait until it's too late, until he declares bankruptcy, when everything's lost, and then there's not much gain from your lending him money. But do it before that happens, before he actually stumbles and falls. Prop him up. Allow him to come back and be successful. In all these cases, olav akasav omer, on him the pasuk says, "Oz tikra v'Hashem yana." You call out to Hashem, and He responds to you. Tishaveya v'yomer hineni. Your tefillos will be responded to. How do we know it's referring to these practices? Says Rashi on top, "Oz tikra le'elu min iksir." The pasuk before that says, "Ki sira anam armichi sisay." Hainu doichek ani. You'll see a poor man, you'll give him something to wear. Don't turn around, don't turn away, don't ignore your relatives, your own basar. Don't just be nice to strangers, your own relatives, your own neighbors. Be nice and warm to all. Then the pasuk continues, As tikrav Hashem yane tishaveya. Hashem too will be close to you when you call out to Him. Continues the Gemara. A man without a wife is not considered the true Adam, the perfect, complete man. Shenamar Zachar Nekeva Baram. Vayikra Shmam Adam. The Zachar Nekeva combination, Adam and Chava, one entity, that is called Adam. Vamar Belazar, furthermore, called Adam She'en Lo Karka Ein Adam. If one doesn't own his karka, doesn't have a plot of land upon which to build a home, from which to draw sustenance. Taisa says, to live there, to have parnasa, to cultivate that land for parnasa. Eino Adam, that's not a true Adam. The Yun Yaakov says, Adam is Lashon Adama. He was taken out of the Adama, and actually he was sent down here. Shenemar HaShamayim Shemaim LaHashem, heaven is for Hashem. Ve'aretz Nasan Livnei Adam. Land was given to us, Bnei Adam, to develop, to cultivate. The true Adam is one who interacts with the Adama, has a piece of land to live on, to cultivate. Ve'amar Belazar. By the way, these are Gemara and Saita, Daf Beis Amud Aleph, that there are three things which are declared ahead of time. Arbarim Yayim Koidem Mitzir Salat Avlat, 40 days before the fetus is formed. There's a baskel ringing out from Shemayim, Bas, Pliny LaPliny, Soda, Pliny LaPliny, Bias, Pliny LaPliny. Three things are pre-appointed and predestined and predesignated. Bas, Pliny LaPliny, Shidduch, Bias, Pliny LaPliny, the home in which you're going to live, and Soda, Pliny LaPliny, that field, meaning your business, your parnasa. Those three are three components which are crucial to one's success, one's life, and that's all predestined. That's all part of a person's tafkid, mission in this world. The bas, the bias, and the sadr. V'amar Rabbi Lazar, my dichsiv. What does the pasuk mean? Eser loy ezer kinegda. Hashem will make an ezer. So Chava, the wife of Adam, will be there to help him, to assist him, and then it says kinegda, which sounds like she will oppose him. Which one is it? Is a wife helping you or getting in your way? All depends on the husband. It all depends on you. Zacha, if you are zeiche, you develop your personality, you develop your midas, and appreciate your wife's help, and don't perceive her like an intruder, threatening and interfering with your life. Zacha is rasa, then indeed she is there to help you. Loy zacha, but otherwise, if you take her as a threat, as though she's encroaching on your territory, you're unwilling to coordinate, to act as like a team. Kinegde, then she really stands opposite you and is perceived like somebody who opposes you. Vika Damri is another pshat in this Gemara. Rabbi Lezer Rami, he had a stira between two psukim. Actually, the same word. Ksiv ki negdoi. The spelling of that word kinegdoi sounds like it could even be read kinagdoi. That's how the Yavitz learns. Like nagda, like being strapped, being struck, like Malchus. Vikarina kinigdoi, but we read it kinigdoi, and he learns it means kinegdoi. We read it kinegdoi. She's there to sort of help you, and kinagdoi, like to strap you. The same answer. Zacha kinegdoi. If you're a zeicha, Rashi actually says, Rashi and Erevin and Dalet, zacha means if you have a good mazel, and you experience marriage the way it's meant to be, kinegdoi, then she's there to help you. She's on your team. She's your biggest fan. Lo zacha, but otherwise menagdasei, she's there to make it difficult for you. Ashkechei Rabbi Yossi Eliyahu. Rabbi Yossi meets Eliyahu Hanavi. Amarle, he asks him a shayla. Ksiv esale eze kinegdei. Right? So one's wife is considered ezer. She's there to help him. B'ma isha is rasei adam. In what way is she actually helping you? You have to feed her, look after her, support her. In what way is she helping you? Amarle, Eliyahu tells him, Adam may be chitin. Look, the farmer brings home his wheat. Chitin kaises. Can he just chew those raw wheat? Pishtan, he brings flax home. Pishtan, Levi can just put them on? No, he needs his wife, who has that special inclination to deal with the mundane matters, cook the food, sew the clothing. That's her nature. She enjoys it. Household chores are not meant for men. In Mitzrayim they switch things around. Vayavidu Mitzrayim es bnei Yisrael bifarech. What does the Gemara in Sotah say? Hey chlifu, they switched the chores. Avodas hanoshim, they gave l'noshim. Avodas noshim la'noshim. They had the men cook and bake and sew. The worst gullus you can imagine. A man is not up to these things. His wife takes care of all the household chores. Loi nimtzes mi'iru es re'inav. Don't you see that she's enlightening his eyes? Mamidas al raglo, helping him stand on his feet by providing for all that. Of course, she's to be commended and praised. V'amar b'laza ma'idach said, what does the pasuk mean? Zois apam etzem atzoma yobasam ipsari. Adam Rishon declares, look, this time around, wow, she's one of me. She's one of mine. She's part of myself. This teaches us that Malamed Sheba Adam al Kol Behema V'Chaya. Initially, Adam Rishon interacted as married with all the creatures. Leiniskara daite, Leiniskara, he didn't feel at ease. Leiniskara daite, he wasn't satisfied. At Sheba al Chava, until he met Chava. Then he felt, oh, that's a true bond, a true connection. V'amar b'laza ma'idach siv. What does the pasuk mean? Where Hashem tells Avram, "V'nivruchu b'cha kol mishpachos Adam." All the nations, all the mishpachos out in the world will be nivruchu b'cha. V'nivruchu is melashon bracha. What did he mean to say? Amar lei hakadosh baruch hu Avram. Hashem tells Avram, "Shtei brechos toivos." A brecha is like an extension of a tree. They would take a branch, fold it down into the ground, and bring it up on the other side, which sort of generated a new tree. Hashem tells Avram, I have two additions to Klal Yisrael. Shtei brechos toivos yeshu lahavrich b'cha. Two very prominent additions. Number one is Rus, Hamoyavia from Moav, who married Boaz, who were the grandparents of David HaMelech and Mashiach. Number two, V'Naama HaAmonis, Naama, who came from Ammon, who married Shlomo HaMelech. Rashi says, Yotzu mehem Malachim and Avim, who generated kings and prophets. These two special brechos will come and join Klal Yisrael. Kol mishpachos Adam. Everybody out there gets their blessings from Klal Yisrael, by way of Klal Yisrael, with the conduit of all bracha in the world. Afilu mishpachos hadoris ba'adam, even the mishpachos who dwell inside the earth, even the cave dwellers. Ein mizbarchos ela b'shvil Yisrael. They get their bracha because of Klal Yisrael. No, when the economy is going well, when there's financial stability in the world, when there's bracha, ultimately Klal Yisrael gains. Perhaps that's why Hashem brings success and abundance in the world at large, because ultimately it trickles down to Klal Yisrael as well, and that's the purpose of it all. Kol goyei haaretz, everybody benefits from Klal Yisrael. Afilu sfinois habois migalio laspamia. Kol, Taisus points this out. Kol is coming to add even those sea travelers who are just mostly on sea, and sometimes they're just ma'at ba'aretz. Sometimes they're on land, but even they're going to be positively affected by the bracha which comes through Klal Yisrael. Kol goya aretz afilu sfinas habois migalio laspamia. Even the sfinas traveling from Galio to Aspamia, einon misbarchos. Their bracha only comes about ela b'shvil Yisrael, on account of Klal Yisrael. The Nefesh HaChaim writes that b'shvil Yisrael means a pathway. There's a pathway from Shamayim through which the brachas get channeled. It's like a conduit, like a pipeline. B'shvil Yisrael, we are the conduit, we are the pipeline, and the bracha branches out from us to everybody else. V'amar b'Elazar asidim kol balei umniyos. In the future, there'll be such a bracha in the farming sector, that all the balei umniyos, all the craftsmen, all the businessmen will drop their business and sheyamdu ala karka, they'll go and become farmers. Shenemar v'yardu meini same kol teifse mashait, all the the ore turners and the malachim, all the captains and the sailors, kol chayli ayam ala oretz yamaydu, they'll drop their positions and come ala oretz and tend the land. Typically, land and its related activities, farming, is the most lowly, regarded as the most lowly position. Shanamar v'yardu. Right? V'yardu mani yasem, they'll come off their ships, they'll go down to a rather degrading profession. But as we said, since there'll be so much bracha, that actually will be the preferred profession. Rabbi Yehuda Chazya lahi ara. Rabbi Yehuda notices this plot of land, this farm. The shadi be karba lefusya. Karba is a furrow. It was plowed lefusya to its width, right, alongside its width. So the furrows are going from side to side on its narrow side. Amar Leis, he tells the field, even if it's plowed again along its length, meaning plowed to and fro in a real successful plowing endeavor, still a farm could only produce so much, and dealing with merchandise, becoming a businessman is tav minach, is way better and more profitable than farming. Rav, a similar story with Rav, Aula ben Yishivli, encountered these. He's standing between these stalks. Chazinu de kanaifon, he sees them waving back and forth. Amalu, he tells them, in naifos is nuf, even if you wave back and forth, ha'fuchi be'iska, being involved in merchandise, tav minach is more successful and more profitable than you. Amarav, meyo zuz be'iska. Better invest 100 zuz in a business deal. Kol yoyma bisr v'chamra, it'll provide you for every day with meat and wine, as opposed to meyo zuzi ba'ara. You put $100, 100 zuz into the ground, milcha v'chafura, you'll end up with just salt and unripe wheat. So business, transactions, merchandise, that type of thing is the way to go. Not only that, farming gets you all dirty, gets them crawling on the ground. Rashi says, you have to lie on the farm there to watch it overnight. It brings contention. Look, it's my field, it's your field. This is the boundary, that's the boundary. As opposed to dealing with commodities, you just lock it up. You put it into the safe, and you're safe. Here, a land which is sitting out there is just open to all, and you can be challenged. Your ownership can be questioned. Amra Papa Zeravali Tazbin. Better plant your own wheat than have to go buy it in the store. This way it's yours, it's more reliable. Even though perhaps you have no gain from planting your own, you have no visible gain, but your own has bracha, it relates to you. You get bracha in your own doing, as opposed to buying it from the street, which doesn't have that bracha. Zoven v'lei tizol. Look, if you have to go sell some merchandise, sell some of your extra belongings to support yourself, do it v'lei tizol, before you become really destitute. Anticipate hardship, sell things off ahead of time. Hanimili, this only applies to bistarki. Rashi says klei abayis. Your household items which you don't really need, which you can afford to sell, your pots, your pans, aval glima loy, but not your clothing, which is loy misramile, aval glima loy misramile, but clothing not, because that's loy misramile, you won't really find it too easily. In those days, clothing and something which really suits you is something which is hard to find, and therefore try to avoid selling those. Another piece of hardy advice: time. You see a hole in the wall developing, plug it up, stuff it up, plaster it up. Don't wait until the whole wall cracks up. Rather than having to wait for the whole thing to crack up and then you need to do renovations. So do things ahead of time to avoid unnecessary expenses. Shefoitz. Repair that wall once it starts exhibiting cracks. Rather than wait for it to collapse and you have to rebuild it completely. Anybody involved in building mismasking ends up losing lots of money, lots of unexpected expenses. So think ahead of time, anticipate in advance. Kefitz Zaven Ara. You see a good deal, go jump at it. Grab that plot of land. Don't take your time. You might lose the opportunity. But when it comes to marriage, take your time. Do it carefully, responsibly, masan, with patience. Nasiv itisa, marry a wife. Make sure she's okay, she suits your needs, she's a good match. Nachis darga, when you marry, go down a drop, go down a step, downgrade. Nasiv itisa, when you marry that wife, lest she be too chasha for you and you won't live up to her expectations. To make sure to go down a drop and marry there, as opposed to looking for a friend. That's meant to be somebody who inspires you, set an example for you. Sak darga, climb up the step. Bechar sheshvina, to find a good friend to lead you upwards. Amar b'lozer baravina, ein poronos ba'ala ilam ela b'shvil Yisrael. The only reason Hashem brings tragic events, hardships in the world, is for us to take heed, for Klal Yisrael, to take musar and improve their ways. All those tragic events that were applied to the Goyim is for whose sake? For Yisrael. Hashem says, I figured you're going to contemplate improvement of your ways when you see all that happening out there. Every typhoon, every tsunami, every earthquake is meant for us to improve our ways. Continues the Gemara. Rav have a miftar Rabbi Chia. Rav, who was Rabbi Chia's nephew, was taking leave of him. Amar lei, Rabbi Chia tells him, gives him a brach. Rachmana litzlach, Hashem should spare you, mimidi dekashem emoisa, from something which is more difficult than death. That's what he told him. Asks the Gemara, Umi ika midi dekashem emoisa? Is there something more difficult than Misa? Yes. Nafak dokva ashtach. Rav went out and he investigated. He found. It's a pasuk. Umoitze. Ani mar mi maves es isha. Sometimes an isha could be even more bitter than death. Rav hamakamet sar leidvisu. In fact, Rav himself experienced something like that. His own wife was a very difficult wife, giving him a hard time, uncooperative. For instance, if you would tell her, could you cook me some beans? Of the late chimtzi, she made him a different type of bean. Chimtzi, he asked her for chimtzi. What did she do? Just the opposite. Of the late luvchi. All right, and he survived. Ki gadol Chia brei, when Chia, who was Rav's son, same name as his great uncle, so when his son grows up and he sees what's going on, that his mother is always switching the order, he figured, okay, apichla. He switched it. Whatever his father says, he would switch it. And this way his mother would actually fill the order properly. So he beat the system. Amarle, so Rav was impressed. Suddenly everything is just working out. He asks Rabbi Chia, I ayla, loch imach? Did your mother get better? Did she improve? What happened? Suddenly she's cooperating. Amarle, so Chia tells Rav, Anahu deka afichnala. It's all about my switching it. Amar lei, so Rav says, I'm impressed. Hainu d'kamrinchi. This is what people say, the nafak minach, the one that comes out of your child, tama, malafach, can teach you some good advice. I should have thought that myself. But look, even though you're not really doing anything wrong, and in fact, it's permissible, I'm just trying to get my food, but you shouldn't accustom yourself to doing this. At loite avadhach, you shouldn't do it. Why? Because you're accustoming yourself to speak untruthfully. Shenemar limdu l'shoinam daber sheker ha'aveinilo. So even though it's mutter, but you're growing accustomed to speaking divrei sheker, I want to discourage you. To PTA the other night, my daughter had a personal diary where they write all their personal things. So she writes, "I will never tell a lie." And the question is why, right? It's like what and why. That's the way the form is made. So what? I will never say a lie. Why? She writes, because it's not emes. So children have this natural, innocence. You can't speak a lie because it's not emes. Plain and simple. No other reason needed. There's a fascinating story, by the way, of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky here in Toronto, when he was appointed Rav of Teres Emes Viewmount Shul. Made a big celebration. They presented him with a gift, a becher, a silver goblet. The next day, somebody notices Rabbi Yaakov in this porn shop in this this shop where they would they sell second-hand items. In any case, he's there and he's appraising his becher. Kind of strange. The day after he got it as a gift, he's appraising it. He's trying to. I don't know if he asked him or Rabbi Yaakov offered. He says, "Look, I'll tell you what I'm doing. In case you're curious, I'm actually heading to the U.S. and at the border, they stop you. The customs officials ask you, what are you bringing in and what's the value?" So he says, "Look, I want to declare it. I have to know how much it's worth." Emes. Titain Emes Liyaakov. That's the name of the sefer. Titain Emes Liyaakov. Unbelievable. In fact, in his old age, somebody asked him, "How come you were zeicha to such arichas yamim?" So he says, "Look, a person doesn't know, but I'll tell you one thing. In my entire life, I never once said a word of sheker." Imagine a person could declare that about himself. I never spoke sheker. Unbelievable. Continues the Gemara. Rabbi Chia have a kametzara leitvisu. Rabbi Chia as well. He was the uncle. He had a hard time with his wife. Ki have a mashka chmidi, but still, whenever he would find something good, something that he thought his wife would appreciate, tsirele, he would wrap it up besudre in his handkerchief and his whatever. Umaisiniela, he would bring it to her as a gift to show her gratitude and appreciation, despite the fact that she gave him a very hard time. Amalei Rav, so Rav asks Rabbi Chia, "Why are you doing that? V'kamat tsarele lemar. Isn't she giving you so much trouble? Why are you doing that for her?" Amalei Rabbi Chia says, "Look, regardless, dayenu, isn't it enough? Shemegadlois banenu, that they raise our children. Umatzilois son of nached, they protect us from sin. Because of their access to the wife, you don't have to engage in silliness." Makri le Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yitzchak Bari. Rabbi Yehuda was teaching his son Rabbi Yitzchak the following pasuk. At times, an isha can be more bitter, even more than death. Amalei Rabbi Yitzchak asks his father, "Kugoin man, give me an example of this type of isha." So he says, "Kugoin imach, your mother, right here." Says the Gemara, was she so bad? A different time, Rabbi Yehuda was teaching his son Rabbi Yitzchak, the same father and son. One only finds true satisfaction through his first wife. Only that first wife really gives him true satisfaction. And here again, Rabbi Yitzchak asks his father Rabbi Yehuda, give me an example of an isha who fits this bill. And he says, your mother. So what was it? Was she good or was she bad? Answers the Gemara, she had two sides to her personality. A split personality. Ma mitkaf tekifa. She was a tough one. Oh, tough like steel. But she gave in easily. Va'avuri me'avra b'mila. She would forgive and forget. So she had a rough, tough surface, but beneath it was soft. Hechi dami isha ra. So we speak so much about this difficult, contentious wife. Give me an example. What does she do? Amar Baye, mekash tele taka. So what's considered an isha ra, who's marmi mavis? An isha who sets the table, prepares his dinner, mekash tele puma, and she spices up her mouth as well, and she's insulting him and throwing insults and names his way. Rav Amar mekash tele taka. She sets the table. Mahadli gab, and she turns her back to him. She goes shopping. Amar b'chamer b'chanina. Kiva shenasa adam isha. At the moment that a person marries, avoynoisav mispakikin, his averes get plugged up, closed up. He gets mechilas avoynos. In fact, I think Rashi in Chumash brings it by machlas, right? That Yishmael went to marry machlas. Asa married Machlas Bas Yishmael, and the reason why we call her Machlas, based on Yerushalmi says because a chasan is moichlin like alvanoisav, he gets mechilas avoynos. He's a new entity, a new creation, a new metzius. Fresh page. Shenamar, how do we know that he loses his averis? Matzah isha matzah toiv, at the moment of marriage. V'yofik rotzin mi'ashem. So v'yofik vidash in lashon of poikikin anakavim. All his deficiencies get filled in, his averis get removed. B'ma Rava. in Eretz Yisrael. Here's an interesting Sheva Brachas Drash. Marava and Eretz Yisrael kinasav inish itza. When one of their friends would marry, Amrli, they would get up and they would say like this, Amrli hachi. And some learned that it wasn't a question mark, it was just a statement. They would give him a good piece of hearty shalom bayis advice. Look, matzah or moitza. Your wife can be described as matzah or moitza. It's up to you. Good or bad. It's all up to you. And how you're going to conduct your marriage. Matzah is referring to the positive aspect of a wife. Matzah, isha matzah toiv. You found a wife, you found goodness. Moitza is referring to the negative aspect. It's all up to you. As we said before, zacha, loy zacha. You can steer your marriage in any direction you want. To the right, to the left. You appreciate her. You're tolerant. You respect her. Then you'll take her advice. As advice of support. You'll realize you have no greater fan than your wife. She's on your team. She's vying for your success. Sure, she'll advise you. She'll contribute. She'll have what to say. Don't take offense. Don't take it personally. Zach is rasay, but otherwise you don't appreciate your wife, and you take it all personally, and you perceive her as a threat. Then it's loy zacha kenagde. She's opposite you. She opposes you. You can also learn it in a more, musar way. The whole concept of interacting with a wife, the whole concept of gashmias. So if it's directed properly, in the right measure, in the right way, the right time, the right place, right proportion, you use it properly. That's great. That's matzah isha matzah toiv. But if instead of using it, it's abused, it drags a person down. It becomes a situation of moitza ani mar mimavis. Like anything else in life, it can be steered in either direction, either up or down. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rava, isha ra mitzvah legarsha. If one is saddled with an isha ra, and all other options are not doable, don't stick it out. Mitzvah legarsha, the mitzvah to do gerish. Nechsev garish leitz v'yatzi modin v'yishpa din v'kolim. Perhaps that's the only way to put the warfare to rest. Suppose he has Isha Ra, a difficult wife, and he wants the divorce, but the ksuba obligations are overwhelming. He can't afford it. What's the solution? Tzarasa b'tzida. Marry another wife. A tzarasa b'tzida. Put another wife next to her, and that's the biggest and most effective method to straighten her out. The Amri Inshi, as people say, b'chaverta v'lei b'silta. Rather than use a silta, which is a thorn, to prick her directly, you could influence her to the better in an indirect way by bringing in a companion, a contemporary wife, it's Sarah, which will set her straight. A difficult wife is equated to a stormy day, a cold, stormy winter day. Shenemar delev toired b'yem sagr, like this drip, like this stormy winter day. Ve'ishes medanim nishtava. So too is a contentious wife. V'amar Rava, boyrei, come take a look. It's not all bad. Kama toiva isha toiva. Look how great, look how praiseworthy is a good wife. Ve'kama ra isha ra, and how difficult and how terrible is a difficult wife. Kama toiva isha toiva. Look how good an isha toiva is. T'chsev, look at the pasuk. Matzah isha matzah toiv. Now, ibegavo mishta ikra. The pasuk is referring to the isha toiva literally. What do you see? Look how praiseworthy she is. Kama toiva. Look how great is an isha toiva. A supportive wife, a cooperative wife, a respectful wife. Shakasav mishapcha. The pasuk is praising her. That's one way to learn the pasuk. Matzah Isha is the Isha herself, literally. However, there's another way to learn the pasuk. Isha is a reference to the Torah, which a person connects to. But even then, we see how the Torah refers to a good wife, because we're using it as an example, something to match up to. If the topic here is Torah, still you see Kama Toiva Isha Toiva. Look how great and praiseworthy is a good wife. Shat Torah. Nimshalabah, Torah is being matched up to the Isha Toiva. Apparently, there's something to match up to. On the other hand, kama ra isha ra, how difficult is it to be saddled with an isha ra, a contentious wife, a difficult wife. Again, there's two ways to learn the pasuk. If it's literally the isha that is being described here, kama ra isha ra, in fact, you see how terrible it is. Shakasav megana. Torah is describing her in a very negative light. The other way to learn the pasuk is the isha here is the Gehenim, which a person experiences chas v'shalom when he's not careful in this world. But there as well we see that the isha ra is regarded in a very negative way, because kama ra isha ra, look how difficult is the isha ra, she Gehenim nishla ba, even Gehenim is sort of using the isha ra as an equation. We're matching up Gehenim to the isha ra. You can imagine how bad the isha ra is. The pasuk says, "Hineni mevi ra, asher lo yuchlu lates mimena." There's a pasuk by Yirmiyah foretelling the gullus and difficulties that they will experience. I'll bring a ra from which they can't get rid of, they can't separate, they can't unload. What is that? Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravo, Zu Isha Rog, Savasa Maruba. He's stuck with a difficult wife whose ksuba is just too expensive and beyond him, so he's stuck with her. There's a pasuk in Eicha, Nasanani Hashem bidei lo yuchal kum. So Hashem put me in the hands of a force from which I can't get out of. Amar of Chizda Mar Ukva, what is that? Amar Gvachia, Zu Isha Ra, Uksuvasa Maruba, again, this type of Isha. B'marava Amru, and it's a straw, they interpret it as follows. This fellow is stuck, he's living a very precarious existence, very unsettling. He doesn't have his own source of sustenance, doesn't have his own farm to supply his needs. His sustenance is dependent upon his money, meaning he purchases his supplies, and it's not always reliable and consistent. Depends on the prices and availability. Better to have your own personal source of income and sustenance. The pasuk in Kisavai by Teichacha says, "Bonecha b'neisecha nesunim lam achar." Your own children will be in the hands of a strange nation. What is that? Omar of Chanan, Barava, Omar Rav, Zu Eshes Av. A stepmother. Sure, she's sensitive, looks out for the stepchildren, but it's just not the same. Na'am achar, it's just not their natural mother, and that's a difficulty to contend with. The pasuk says, "B'goy novel ach isim." I'm going to torment them with a goy novel. What is that? Omar of Chanan, Barava, Omar Rav. Again, Zu Isha Ra, the same old Isha Ra, Uksevas Meruba with her large ksuva. Rabbi Lezo Omer Ela Tzedukim. Now some switch the word Tzedukim for the word Minim, which makes sense. The Minim, the Christians, the ones that oppose the Klal Yisrael and our religion, Begoy Novel Ach Isem. They're going to be tormented by the Minim, by the opposers of Yiddishkeit. We see that novel is synonymous with one who fails to recognize Hashem. Masni Satan on the Brisa we learned. Who is this goy novel, this lowly nation? Elu anshe barbraya, vanshe martinai. These nations, these peoples who are lowly people, uncivilized societies. Shemahalchen arumim b'shuk. They walk around undressed in the streets. She'endacha meshukatz amatuf ne'amokim. You don't find anybody that's more disliked by Hashem yoyser mishemalach b'shuk aram than the person who walks around this way. Rabbi Yehuda Omar, who's this goy novel, this difficult nation, who are going to impose difficulties on Klal Yisrael? Elu chaverim. This was a nation of chaverim. Rashi says it was a version of the Persians, Parsim Rishaim, who gave us a very hard time. They made gzeres which were intolerable. In fact, when they told Rabbi Yehuda that Asu Chaver LeBavel, this nation arrived in Bavel, he felt terrible. It was a shock of his life. Shaga. He sort of collapsed. He bent down, Nafal, and he fell down. Amrulay, when they told him, 1 second, Mekabli Sheikhla, he can still pay them off. They take bribes. Taretz Yosef, so that got him back up, and he, Rashi says, V'samach, and he was glad, okay, at least we can Everyone has a price to pay. Fine, everyone has their price. We'll pay them off. Now they told them about the 3 gzeres which were introduced by the Chaverim, by these Persians. Gazra al Gimel. They told him about 3 gezeres, and he responded, you know why? Mida keneged mida, v'pnei Gimel. Those 3 decrees were a direct result of us, of Klal Yisrael's negligence in 3 things which corresponded to those 3 gezeres. Mida keneged mida. First one was Gazra al Basar. They told him about the gzera that you can't slaughter animals, you can't do shchita. You know what he said? Says Rabbi Yehuda, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It's because we were not careful with respect to giving the matanos kahuna, the portions of the animal that belongs to Gehanim. That's why we got the gzera, which pertained to basar. Number 2, gazru ala merchatzos. They locked up the bathhouses, no showers. The answer is because we were negligent in mitzvahs tefillah, and that's why we got it. Look, they're digging up the graves. The answer is because we, Klal Yisrael, participated and celebrated with them during their holidays. So on account of that, Hashem dug up the graves and brought avelos to be mechaper on that. Shenamar v'oisa yad Hashem b'chem v'seichem. The pasuk here is in reference to digging up graves of Klal Yisrael. It says b'chem u'b'v'seichem. How is it that the avos are struck and punished? They're also affected. How? Amar Rabba bar Shmuel zu chetute shichvi. Referring to this calamity, this terrible thing of digging up graves. Adam Amar, as we learned, ba'avoin chayim mesim is chatitin. You know why the mesim are disturbed? You know why their rest is perturbed? Because of the avoin of the living. Amalei Rabba la Rabba b'Amari. Ksiv la yasfu v'la yikavru l'doimen al pnei adam hayu. The pasuk is foretelling the sorrows of the churban. They won't even be buried. So dying is not something which is something to look forward to. There won't be burial. Uksiv, and then it says v'nifchar mavis mechayim. We're going to choose. We'd rather die than live. Why? If they won't be kvura, why would they prefer death? Amar lei, so he says to him like this. The pasuk means nifchar mavis l'rishayim. We choose mavis for rishayim. Better for them to die shelo yichyu b'elmazeh, rather than continue living in this world of v'yechtu, which will bring about more chet, v'yipul b'gehenim, and lead them to Gehenim. So for them, better die than live. Kosav b'sefer ben Sira. We find in Sefer ben Sira, authored by this fellow Ben Sira, the following advice and good eitzos. It's interesting that Sefer ben Sira is considered Sfar Machitzonim. It's not Chazal, but we do find that many times in the Gemara we quote from this Sefer. So the Rashba, the Tshuva writes this. He says, although it's not really necessarily Chazal, but we do find that throughout Shas we quote from the Sefer. Look, wisdom is wisdom. You know what Sefer ben Sira was? Interesting. The Mepharshim say he was the son of who? Of Yirmiyahu Navi. In fact, look closely at the word Sira. Sira is Begematra Yirmiyahu. The Mepharshim say that he was Nisaber Bambati, which means his mother became impregnated through the zera left over by Yirmiyahu and Ambati in a bath. Somehow it wasn't a direct impregnation. That's why they named him. She named him Ben Sira, the son of Sira, which really was Ben Yirmiyahu. But this was a way to preserve Yirmiyahu Navi's honor. In any case, he was the son of Yirmiyahu, and he put together this book full of wisdoms, which is quoted throughout Chazal. So what did he say? On the topic of Shalom Bayis, Isha Toiva Matana Toiva Labali, should know, good wife. It's a gift from Hashem. It doesn't. It's not something to be taken for granted. And who gets it? Who earns it? Uksiv Toiva. This Toiva B'cheik Yirei Elakim Tinasim were given to a person who's deserving, a person who's over Hashem. Hashem gives him that schar. Isha Ra, a difficult wife, is considered tzaras labal, equated to tzaras, leprosy. Matakante, what's the solution? You got a shena. The only way out is a get. V'yisrapim sarate, which will heal him of his saras. Isha yafa, a pleasant-looking wife. Ashri bala, lucky is her husband. Mispar yamav kfeilim, it's as though he has a double long life because he enjoys his life. It's a pleasant life. But that's only your own life. Turn your eyes away from a pleasant-looking woman who's not yours. Lest you be ensnared in her trap. Don't even hang out with her husband, which will bring you closer to her. Keep far away. Drink with him, pour with him. His wine, his beer. Keep away, keep far away. It's very tempting, very ensnaring. Look. Through the form of a pleasant-looking woman, Rabim Hushchasu, many were destroyed. Such a trivial thing like that took many people down. Va'atzumim kol harogea, her victims are enormous. Rabim hoyu pitzei roichel. Roichel, this fellow, time of Chazal, they used to have these roichel, these peddlers. He would come around and sell perfumes, cosmetics. It was a very risky business spiritually, because he would interact with the women when their husbands were not around. Rabim hoyu pitzei roichel. These roichelim, they were full of wounds. They were tzeklapt and zahakt, but their husbands would come around and just kill them. Hamargilun var erva, whose profession, whose his business would lead him to dvar erva kenitzutz maver gachelas, like a spark which just lights up a coal. So it's a hara. That's it's a hara, a little spark, and just goes out of control. Kikluv mali oif. Their lives are compared to this cage filled with with birds. Likewise, these reichlim are always filled with deceit and trickery. They're trying to work their way through the, into the homes, and to outsmart their husbands. Chas v'sholem. That's regarding this concept of women and erva. Be very careful. Continues the Sefer Ben Sira on another topic. Al tatzer tzaras machar. This is the perfect antidote to anxiety. Al tatzer tzaras machar. Have no concern regarding tomorrow's difficulty. Don't let tomorrow be tomorrow. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You know what? Who says you're going to be around tomorrow? I mean, you should, Be'ez Hashem, but there's no way of knowing. Don't waste today for tomorrow. Look, tomorrow might come around and you will not be here anymore. Isn't that a pity? It turns out that he was concerned and preoccupied with a world, with tomorrow, that doesn't belong to him, that he never really came to experience. I once heard a beautiful line. The Yetzer Hara takes the past and the future and uses it to break the presence. He takes the avar and the asid, bygone, or the future, which may or may not come, and uses it to break the present. Enjoy the present moment. That's what everybody's busy with, meditation, mindfulness. It's all about just focus on the present. I once saw a beautiful line. It was a quotable quote, one of these professional literature. It said, keep in mind, today is yesterday's tomorrow. Yesterday you're thinking about, okay, what's going to happen the next, I have to prepare for tomorrow. Now is yesterday's tomorrow. What are you thinking about again? Again, you're thinking about tomorrow. So what are you going to think about today? What are you thinking about today? Forget about yesterday. Forget about tomorrow. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the daf. Enjoy the tefillah. Enjoy your breakfast. Enjoy your kids. Enjoy the sky, the sunset. Just enjoy the moment. What else in Sefer Ben Sira? What other good advice do we have? Don't allow the crowds to come into your house. Keep your house as your own. It's your own territory, your own personal space. Even your friends. Minimize their visits. Get along with everybody. Everybody will like you and greet you. But still, be careful. A secret, you only reveal to 1 in 1,000. You never know where it's going to go. Okay, once on the topic of marriage, and Piri Verivio says the Gemara Amar Basi. Ein ben David ba. Mashiach will only come. There's a place called Guf, a chamber up in heaven, which houses all the future neshamas. In fact, that's why it's called Guf, because the chamber itself is sort of in the shape of a Guf. from which the neshamas come out and go into the guf. So first, all those neshamas have to be depleted, come down the world and complete the tachlis ha'olam, and then comes Mashiach. Shenamar keruach melefana ya'atif. Ya'atif, says Rashi, is the delay, lashon of delaying. So Mashiach will be delayed until the neshamas and yasisi, until all neshamas are accounted for. Tanya blazo eimer kol mishein oisek bepiri v'ribya. Person neglects this great mitzvah, kilu sheifich damim. It's as though he was oisek in shvichas damim. So preventing a neshama from coming down the world is like shvichas damim. Shenemar sheifich dam adam ba'adam dam yeshafach. The pasuk is describing a terrible concept of murder. And then what does it say? Ksiv basrei v'atem puravu. Apparently there's some sort of correlation between the two. Rabbi Yaakov Eimer ki'ilu ma'at admus. It's as though he's affecting the form kaviyachal of Hashem, the way Hashem expresses himself in the world. Shenema ki b'tzelem lakim asas adam. A person is an expression of Hashem's tzelem. He went to add to it, to enhance it. Uksiv asrei. After the pasuk describing tzelem lakim, it says v'atem puravu. So we see there's a connection. But now Eimer both things. Ki'ilu sheifech damim, number one, number two, because shenema v'atem puravu, it says puravu after both discussions. Who's speaking? Ben Azai. Ben Azai was unmarried. Amr Ben Azai said, Bnei Yeshiva turned to him and said, you're speaking about marriage. Yesh no edorish. Sometimes you have a good speaker, v'no mekayim, and he fulfills, he practices what he preaches. That's the best. Sometimes you have no mekayim, a person who fulfills, v'no edorish, he's not the world's greatest articulate speaker. But you're the other way around. You speak and you're not even fulfilling your own directives. V'ata no derish. You're darshaning beautifully. How great piri v'rivya, demos and people and neshamas. V'ein no mekayim. What about you? You're unmarried. Amalan ben Azai. So Ben Azai says, look, I tried. What should I do? My heart is so infatuated with Torah. I just can't. I can't interrupt. I don't have a heart for anything else. The world, others will take care of the world. In fact, Tosfos brings, based on the Gemara Ksubas, that Ben Azai was once actually married, guess to who? Rabbi Akiva's daughter. In fact, the Gemara says Rabbi Akiva's daughter crafted some type of beautiful thing for Ben Azai, and it's clear that they were married, but he says apparently they got divorced afterwards. It just was unsustainable. He was totally committed to the Torah, immersed in the Torah, and perhaps was unable to provide his wife what she needed. So other than a few select individuals, this concept applies to all. Pir v'Ribya brings about neshamas and the development and cultivation of Hashem's world. Tani Yidach, we have a slightly different version of this whole discussion. We just change one name, that's all. Rabbi Lezo Eimer kol mi she'ein lo isek b'pir v'Ribya ki lo shevech damim shenamar shevech dam adam, right? V'samach levat puravu. So we see a puravu is related to shvichas dam. Rabbi Lezo ben Azari Eimer, so it changes instead of Rabbi Yaakov, it's Rabbi Lezo ben Azari. It's just one slight change. Rabbi Lezo ben Azari Eimer kilu mata dmus Ben Azai Omer, etc., Ben Azai, Shna Dorish, V'chulu, all the way till the end of the Bryce. Pretty fascinating stuff. Okay, so we learned about the obligations, the Shalom Bayis obligations, Oyevas Ishteke Gufay, right? Machab de Yosim Gufay. Just be easy on the finances, let her have what she needs, and you'll be good in good grace with Hashem. That person's Makar V'skroiva, very important. Warm to his relatives, close to his neighbors as well. We learned about the title Adam, which is conferred on a person who is married, a person who is involved in Parnasa. He has his karka. Today, I guess it would be like a business, some source of income. We have the contrast between merchandise and business dealings as opposed to being a farmer, which isn't the most preferred or advisable profession. We have the whole story of Chia, Rav, the Isha Ra. Be careful with Divrei Sheker. We have the drasha. They used to give a ma'arava, matzah or maitza. It can go either way, right? Zacha, Izrasai, right? It says Ezer Kenegda. A wife can go either way. All depends on the husband, the way he channels his family, channels his home. Zacha is rasai, otherwise kenegda. The isha toiva, it's great, but otherwise it's moitza animar memavas the isha. We find the solution of get. At times it's not feasible. Ksubasa meruba, that is a difficulty on its own. We have the last piece of the Gemara discussing concepts presented by Yosef ben Sira. Be careful from arayas and all related activities. We have the last piece of Gemara extolling the virtues of Puravu. It brings about Mashiach and enhances the Tzelem Elikim. All the best to all of us and much, much Hatzlacha.